All right, Shin, Nixie, which one should I call you?
Nixie's fine. Yeah.
Nixie. All right. Well, Nixie. Well, we have one of the most hostile metas, and we have one of the hardest matchup threads I've seen in a long time. I we've both been playing for quite a while. Obviously, we both love Dorinthea, and it's a tough meta right now. Let's see if we can solve. So I guess before we started recording, you said you either take your losses or you be mediocre versus everything. Is that kind of dependent on the equipment or just the build, or you know? Tell me a little bit about your
I think it
philosophy on that.
matters. Yeah. I think it matters like definitely on the builds.
Yep.
You probably want things that will be better into certain decks like defensive decks. You know
Hmm.
that you probably want a bit more reacts or something else to follow up a stuffed attack, like attack action will be very good. But if you think that you're gonna be facing a lot of people that's not gonna block, then those things that get benefit from reprise goes down a lot.
Yep.
But at the same time, you probably need some that to just get over some armor blocks. So like stuff like puncture goes up.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, or you could just try to flat deck things. I don't know. It's very interesting how you have
Yeah,
to
there's a
match
lot
up
of.
to different
So
heroes right now.
I guess we should be clear. We're talking about a Dawnblade focused deck, maybe with Decimator. We're not talking about hatchets. We're not talking about anything like pure Decimator. We're talking about a Dawnblade focused deck. And
Yes.
I guess the main thing comes down to the chess piece. Do we want to build a very aggressive version with Courage of Bladehold? Do we want to play more mid range with Grains and Tunic, or do we want to go
Hmm.
like pure mid range, just play pure Tunic? Uh, if we play pure Tunic, then we would obviously have more one cost stuff. If we play more mid rangey, then we would have a little bit fewer attack reacts. If we play towards Courage of Bladehold, we would have a few more overpowers and stuff like that. So I guess that's really the main question is if we think about what the meta will be, like lots of the MST heroes, we have Victor,
Hmm.
Azealia, Ko, Kano, Dash. I think the main issue is that all these require completely different approaches, which is
Yeah,
yeah, that's hard.
it makes it very hard
Yeah.
for sure.
So
For me, I think
yeah,
the
what's your
top three
preference?
heroes that I think probably see will definitely be Zen. Zen will still be there. We know he got the
Yes.
bans. I think Tiger base Zen is still very scary.
Hmm.
I think New, as you saw with how many wins she got, I
Yes.
think she's gonna be a top deck as well. And the last one's probably gonna be a split between I think KO and Azalea
Hmm.
is my guess. That's
Yep.
my assumption. I don't know about you. What you
Yeah,
think
I
might be
think
there?
that's a pretty solid assessment, but I do think there will be some Enigma, some Kano, some
Oh yes.
Prism, some Dash. So
Oh yeah.
I
Cheers.
guess
Yeah.
let's just.
For sure.
I mean, I think those matchups are good. Like Illusionist is just going to be very difficult. Like
Yeah.
I think
I think
both of
so.
us have gotten to the point where we're like, yeah, Chorus of Iron Song just doesn't quite do it.
If it
It's
stopped D
good for.
reacts to, it'd be so good.
Yeah. If
But
you
no.
combine like Dauntless and Chorus, oh my god, it'd be
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's try to build a deck that focuses a little bit heavier on those four heroes that you mentioned: Zen, New, and kind of Azalea and
Hmm.
KO. Okay, so
Yeah.
just let's just jump into it. Which chess piece do you want to
Sure.
run?
I think for sure, I think you need grains. I think grains is like a best overall chess piece at the moment. And you
Hmm.
have Tunic, which is more on the control side, and then the courage for like super aggro that you
Hmm.
want to go very, face and like fight with. I think that is I think what you want. I don't know. How do you think about Bladehold right now? Like, do you think it takes over
This is
grains?
the $1 million question. I feel like no matter what we do, New is going to be really difficult. Out of those four matchups, like by far the hardest matchup feels like it's going to be New, and I don't know if there's a good way to counteract what they're doing. I, this is kind of jumping ahead. I do think we need some energy potions somewhere in the deck. I do like teapots
Mm,
quite a bit. because it gives you that 5th card. Because sometimes if new disrupts you, you generally go down to 3 cards or 4 cards. So having something on board would be nice. Like Courage is kind of like that E-Pod. It's on board. But Courage of Bladehold in Classic Constructed has felt very all in. Like if you pick Courage of Bladehold and you don't get at least 2 supremacy hits or 2 double counters or something like that, or a triple hit, you'd probably lose the game. So
I think so.
Let's just roll with the Tunic and Grains right now. These also feel a little bit more stable, and the ability to outplay is a little bit higher. So let's just stick with these. So I guess in the arm slot, I don't think we have. Generally, we don't have room for Iron Song versus, so we just stick with Bracers.
Yep.
Obviously, Dawnblade goes in there, and obviously we're playing Bolters. Like,
yep,
no question about that. As the headpiece, are we on Crown of Providence? Are we on Balance of Justice? Are we on both?
I would love to run both. Yeah. We'll see if we could have to cut one eventually. But if we have room, I would love to run both.
Which one will ultimately make the cut?
Ooh, I think we will have to cut Providence. Just because balance could be so strong in the spike turns that the opponent gets, you also draw cards and it evens out. And just because of that aspect, is very nice. It's sometimes just a 2 block, but that's fine.
Currently, the only decks in the meta that are running like extreme arsenal hate, like Command and Conquer. So in terms of Command and Conquer decks, we have Enigma and Victor, like Command and Conquer pummel decks, and then New and Assassin in general always attacks the arsenal as well. So that would be helpful in those matchups, but I do agree that Balance of Justice is the more catch-all. So we'll put the Crown in the maybe category. So I think we just stick like that. So in terms of Kano respect, what type of how respectful are you?
Not that much, but you always pack at least AV1.
And I presume that's in the head slot.
Yep, head slot. I know a lot of people were talking about in like arm slot or something else because you could, use Balance of Justice when they go off to draw a card. So that's very interesting, but I've always just been using the headpiece for myself.
I have tried AB1 and AB2. I ultimately think it doesn't really matter because of Kindle.
Then
if you're dead, you're dead. All it does is it like reduces the amount of damage you take on turn 0. But generally, Kano is either killing you like way over killing you or not killing you. I also agree that I think AB1 is probably the best way to go. I think you could put the No Rune Gloves in the maybe board. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is all the equipment that we would run. Anything else?
Nope, that looks good to me.
All right, and the nice thing about having just 7 equipment is that we can have 73 cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's just start off with some, auto includes, no-brainers. 3 Blade Flurries. I don't think there's any question on that. Let's see. I'm trying to pick the auto includes that we won't have any really discussion about. 2 Iron Song response, I think, is...
2. And the 3rd could be like a flex, maybe, like inventory or maybe...
We'll put that in the inventory. I can't even put Overpower or Puncture there because some builds don't run those. I think 1 route. People generally agree on 1 route.
Yeah, 1 route to close out games important.
Yep. And then we have Spoils of War and Supremacy and Warrior's Valor. Okay.
Yep.
And then for the yellows, I think the only thing that is generally a consensus is that you run at least 2 Singing Steel Blades, and everything else is a maybe. I know you obviously run at least
Twin Links.
You run at least this. Most people run 3 and 3, but we can have that discussion. Okay, and then 3 pitch. Obviously we're gonna put Glint. I think the blues there's a little bit more consensus on the blues because like good blues are good. So obviously glint,
Yep.
hit and run, and well, maybe there's not actually that much consensus. Precision press blue, is that an overpower? I
Yeah,
guess with nuke,
I think
maybe
overpower
not.
for sure.
Yeah, blue
I mean,
overpower.
I like overpower still.
Mhm.
Because if you still de-react from Arsenal, it doesn't really
Mhm.
do much.
Yep.
Precision press. I think that's like a 2 of maybe.
Okay.
Depends on the deck. That you want, like how many
Mhm.
guaranteed go-agains you want.
Yep.
But some people prefer like the blue Warrior's Valor more than
Mhm.
the precision press.
Sure. So,
So
we could talk about that. So I guess this is like we there's really no
four.
there's no discussion on this. You start at this as the base. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit so I've actually, because of heavy hitters and the agility token generation, there is kind of two schools of thought. There's the, okay, we're going to have unconditional go again, and we're going to play a little bit tricky with like command and conquer, twinning blade. Sometimes it's the pump, so we keep them guessing. And then I've seen
Mhm.
another train of thought. So this one has glistening steel blade. I've seen some people say, no, glistening steel blade bad. Let's just play 9 Warriors Valor. And
Mhm.
let's just say, hey, there's no tricks. The only unconditional go again is Spoils of War. I'm not generating agility. I'm going to present Dawnblade, and if it hits, it's going to have go again, and I'm going to run way more pumps than normal. So there's kind of two
Yeah.
schools
So
of thought.
like that's like more the classic Dory, right? Just
Yes, that
like
is
if
the
I
more
hit,
old
I
school
get
Dory.
so much value.
Mhm.
If I don't hit, then I lose value. So you
Yes.
incentivize the opponent to like overblock and commit to
Yes.
blocking.
So the pro of the second one is that one is a little bit more consistent in terms of draws, but it's a little bit more inconsistent in that if your opponent just lays their hand down, sometimes you can't get through.
Mhm.
So, which of these two styles are you more into? Are
I
you a
definitely was
triple
the.
twinning blade, triple glistening, triple
Oh
iron
yeah.
song determination type of guy? Or are you like, hey, I like a couple stroke of foresights, a couple Alpha Bloods, I like
Yeah.
Yellow's Warrior Valor?
Uh, used to be on the ladder where it was more consistent,
Mhm.
just like presenting damage. I'll get so much benefit if I hit. But recently, I made a deck for the Battle Hard of Seattle, which utilized more of natural go against with follow ups of either a pump or attack actions to keep the opponent guessing. And I think
Mhm.
that worked pretty well, especially because I needed those attack actions to disrupt the opponent
Mhm.
because damage by itself wasn't that great to erase.
Mhm.
So I needed stuff like sensor for the Zens, weakest link, uh,
Command and Conquer,
those two,
Amnesia.
command and conquer. Yep, all those
Uh,
are very important. You can't go too much because our deck is so limited in the
mhm.
space. But I think especially sensor weakest link, I try to fit in
So
to disrupt as much as
so
possible.
one of the things that uh differentiating factors is that the second build generally can snowball counters a little bit harder because the draws are a little bit more inconsistent, right? Let's say you get a Dawnblade counter and then you draw your disruption piece. It's like, do I really
Right.
want to play my disruption piece and lose my
Yeah.
Dawnblade counter? So I'm trying to think like which of these is better. I know you've more recently played the former,
Hmm.
the first style,
Yep.
but is that the correct play right now to, like, is this a glistening steel blade meta? I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah. I think it used to be because you really needed to raise Zen and you glistening helped with that. But now that they don't have the bonds to go really high, they also have to draw pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could try explore back to the
Yeah.
OG Dory way of going towards like if I hit, I'm gonna punish you.
I
I
also,
think that could be
yeah,
pretty
I
good.
also think in this metagame there's bit fewer D reacts, and the heroes that do have D reacts, like new, aren't running heavy D reacts. So a combination of +3 pumps and then route slash overpowered style pumps, I think could do very well. So the
Mhm.
trickiness in the second style deck is like, am I going to give this +3 or +6? You don't know. Am I going to give it +4?
Right.
Maybe +5? So
Yep.
so that's I feel like that's a little bit let's try to build a deck like that. I feel like that's a little bit more. I feel like that'll be a little bit more effective in this current metagame. Because if you look at the top decks, is Glistening Steelblade doing anything against any of them? Like, let's say, okay, so against Zen, they could deny reprise by blocking with armor, or just race you. New, if you play Glistening, if she disrupts you and you play Glistening Steelblade, you're on a 3 or 4 card hand. That's never going to work. Aelia, if she disrupts you, you can't keep your whole hand generally. Dash, I guess it's okay against Dash, but they generally have D-Reacts, so that's less good. Glistening against Ko. Ko has quite a bit of armor as well. So there's just, as we go down the list, it's like, is this really a Glistening Steelblade meta? I don't know. I really don't think so.
Yeah,
so,
I think the stock of it does go down a bit. Yeah.
Okay, so if we're trying to build a more old school deck, so I talked about how the defining card is triple Warrior's Valor on all of these. Now, I guess we'll start that as the base. So in terms of attack reactions, this one is going to be running. I didn't even spell puncture right, and I put it correctly, but that's okay. It's going to be running puncture. It's going to be running overpower.
So for overpower, what color do you usually run? For me, I recently found yellow to be pretty good. But I think even like maybe,
I think
would you run
both
3 or would you run? You're gonna run both?
Oh well, I think ultimately you run at least one of each.
Yes, I think that would be pretty good. Maybe
but I think ultimately you
like
run 3.
One for okay, you want to run 3? I think red overpower like 3 of might be overkill, sort of like running 3 routes. I think it'll be very hard to pull off. I think 1 or 2 of red, I definitely agree with. I think running 1 or 2 of the yellow will be pretty good.
Yep, we talked about energy potion, so I do like having Epot and at least 2 overpowers. I feel like this is a pretty important piece at the moment. I don't know if 3 is correct, but I think at least 2 is correct. We'll come back to that in a bit. Any more red cards that we're kind of thinking about?
One thing I did really like is I know your pet card, Biting Blade.
Yeah. We'll put that in the maybe.
It could be. You'll put that maybe, yeah. One card I did really like was Commanding Performance.
Yes,
I thought was very stellar.
Yes, this is a card that is. Sometimes you just go Warrior's Valor, Commanding Performance, swing with Tunic up, and they're like, well, I have all the information on this turn, but I don't want to block.
Right.
So
and having a trigger before like the defense reactions could be played makes it so hard for them opponents to be able to block this. So I think that card is very important.
Is this a 3 of in the main board, or is this like a sideboard card?
I think it's a main board.
Okay. Let's see if we can get that to work. Now this is here we go is another card. This is a very old we're trying to build like a more old school deck, but this was an old school card. Dauntless. Not quite the right meta for it, I think, right now. But
yeah, this card could be so good if it would last the whole turn or something, but it's only for the next weapon attack. So
yes. Yeah. During Crucible of War, when they designed a lot of these cards, I think they were like, back then Dorinthea was the queen. And I think they were deathly afraid of making Warrior too good, because if you made Dorinthea really good, it would warp the meta completely. Like everybody would need like 9D reacts in the sideboard, and
a lot of unmovables, and even then Dauntless kind of shuts it down because it makes it a 4 pitch instead of 3. So
this is a very strong card, but right now it's, I don't know, they need to reprint this effect, but in a different version. Like maybe like this is kind of going very off topic, but maybe an attack reaction that says did you play any Magic the Gathering by any chance?
No.
Okay, there's a mechanic. There's a
one.
mechanic called Split Second, which says when this is on the stack, nothing else can be put on the stack. So
interesting.
So you put your Dauntless attack reaction on the stack, and it says you can't play D-Reacts. So it resolves. They can't play D-Reacts. Oh, that'd be... Or it says, okay, the next D-React costs +1.
Yeah.
I think this as an
Or
attack reaction with split second would be much better. So
yeah.
yeah.
Or something like exude ability would be very nice
Yes.
if that was on a
Yes.
card.
Yeah.
Like no instance or
that'd be great.
defense reaction could
Mhm.
be played if a certain conditions met.
Yep.
I think she needs that for sure.
Sure. Okay. Any other cards kind of sticking out?
One other card that was a standout for me in heavy hitters, which
Mhm.
I initially didn't think was good, but turned out to be pretty good, was lead with speed.
Hmm. Yes, this makes our 2-card hands much stronger. Also, like this plus a blue means, okay, it's 6 damage on hit. I get a vigor token. It's like that's
Right.
just annoying enough for people to be like, eh,
Right? It's like, man, I really have to block
eh.
this or else to get the grains effect. Or not
Yeah.
the grains effect pretty much turns the
Mhm.
goblet
Mhm.
coming for 6. It's
Sure.
pretty good.
So by having this card in, and so now we have a lot of front pumps. This kind of makes Iron Song Determination kind of mandatory now. Do you feel like that's the case, or is it?
Yeah, I think having one of is I think pretty good in this deck, especially because you have so many front bumps.
Yes, that can also like mess with their head because it's like, okay, I don't want to drop really low because if there's a Iron Song Determination, I can just lose the game. So one of feels nice. I saw a card that I wanted to talk about. So Iron Song Pride.
Yes.
Now, how do you feel about including this in the deck?
Oh, when this came out, I thought this was at least a one of auto include all the time
Mm-hmm.
because just being able to, just like glistening to be able to jumpstart your counters is so good. But there were times when I was like, oh, I really need to block here. I couldn't block.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very punishing. But I think in this meta, I think at least a one of as a trick
Yeah.
would be pretty
Yes.
good.
Yeah, I kind of like the one of. So the one of the things is that like you got to think about like if I draw 2 of this card, how bad is it?
Yeah.
If you ever draw 2 Iron Song Prides at the same time, it's you only have one option with your hand, and that's keep it and play Iron Song Pride. So I do like the one of. I think we're actually going to end up with a lot of one ofs just to keep them guessing. So,
and I
all
think
right.
that's always like a key point to be able to keep them guessing. Like one or two of makes the opponent think like, is there more, and have to expect it when they count through your graveyard.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I think Dory's one of the extra heroes that love these like off cards.
A lot of decks are built like, all right, we have 20 cards, 3 ofs, and we're done, right? But
Yeah.
Dorinthea,
Exactly.
a lot of it. One of the things I used to say is like, hey, please don't take my exact deck list and play it, because if they catch on, this is back when Yellow Overpower became popular, and people caught on, and they're like, oh, that's Josh Lau's list. I know every card in your deck now. I'm like, you don't want that to happen. The best way to do this is like to change a card or two here or there so that you have your own unique list, and then they keeps them guessing, right? It's like cards like Out for Blood, for example, Stroke of Foresight, like having these in the deck, I think helps. Do we want to include them? It's the question.
Good question. Currently, what is our red count? It's getting pretty high a bit.
It is quite high. It's at 26.
Yeah,
and we haven't
I would
talked
put
about
one
these.
Alpha Blood as a maybe, just to see if we could fit it in because
Sure.
of what we just said, but it might get cut.
Sure. Going down here, are we on Sharpened Steel? We already have like commanding performance and lead with speed. So I think no.
I think we can't because of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And okay, so we are a Tunic deck, so I presume we're going to put 3 shunts in the sideboard.
Yep.
Any interest in a Stroke of Foresight, or are we kind of good?
No, I'd rather have
Out for Blood.
Out for Blood than Stroke. Only reason I would run Stroke was if I was on I, like Yuto Suzuki's list, that he likes on I just to be able to opt more, which I think is really interesting. But we're not doing that probably here, so.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's go to the yellows. A lot of these, we're basically just going to be looking at the Majestics because a lot of the yellows in general in this game are not that great. So I presume we're running at least one of these, right? Because of the
unveil a card, please.
Yep. The threat of it.
Yeah.
And we already talked about how we are not going to be running Glistening. We are running the triple yellows Warrior Valor.
Yep.
Are we running Iron Sword of Determination? We already talked about that. Run through. I think we should run at least one.
Yeah, I think one as like to get around potential warmongers because of Aelia now. A lot of people are running Aelia, and if you can't play these front pumps, it's going to be very punishing for us. Especially
you're going to have to rely on your bolters or glint or something. So yeah, that's a good point. And Aelia is never blocking a naked Dawnblade, so you're going to get the run through to connect. Okay, so this is maybe the card that we need to talk about the most.
Yeah.
So heavy hitters had Blade Flurry, Commanding Performance, and Shift the Tide of Battle. And I think a lot of people have gone back and forth quite a bit on is this good? Is this bad? What do you feel?
It's really hard. I really want to like it. I think
I really want to like it as well.
Because it's like Glint. It's like another version of Glint because you get Go.
If this was blue, I would put this in my deck.
Oh yeah, if it's blue for sure, it's going in over like Precision Press.
Yeah.
But the
issue is that Dorinthea is so reliant on having a blue that your yellows have to be god tier. And so in the past, the yellow base, when you were running this triple Warriors Valor, you generally were running very few yellows. Generally, it was just 3 Warriors Valor, yellow, 3 Singy Steel Blade, 1 Twinning Blade, and that's it. And so you're running something closer to like 37-23 as your ratio. So I guess we'll leave this to Hatchet, Dory, and Guyz, I guess.
So.
Yeah.
The difficulty with this, the requirement that it needs to be higher attack, makes it kind of hard for just like a naked Dawnblade and be able to play this.
Yep.
That's what makes it really hard. But if you ever have a counter or if you have a front pump or reaction, then it's great. But that requires a bigger hand for you to hold.
I agree. All right. Obviously, we're going to put in the 3rd Singing Steel Blade because our deck is much more likely to get reprise because when you put down a Warrior's Valor, it's like, okay, I mean business. So, all right. Yellow Shunt.
Ooh, Yellow Shunt. I think it's okay, but I probably will pass on it for now.
Yep. Sure. Are we keeping with the Twinning Blade count? Because currently there's only Spoils of War as unconditional go again. I guess Glint as well.
Lead, Glint, and we also have Lead with Speed now.
Yeah, we have Lead with Speed. So are we on 2? Or are you on
2 will be good.
Okay,
2.
sure. 2.
I love 3. Twinning's like my favorite card. I think it's so broken. If you have like a package to go with a lot of natural Gogans, this one is a little bit leaner, so I think 2 is fine.
Yep. The greatest Jeopardy question. How many swords are in Unified Decree? The answer is 5. All right.
One day that will be
one
good.
Day it'll be good. Okay, and then that takes us out. So I think our yellows, literally we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is a little bit high, but you know, a lot of these are, you know, those tech one-ofs, the chorus, the Iron Song Determination, the overpower, the run through all of one-ofs. I think that's fine. Okay, so let's go to the blues. This should be like a little bit more straightforward on what to do now that we have our deck. Emboldened Blade, I guess that's the first card to talk about.
The thing is, I love Emboldened Blade because I feel like I have a pretty good sense of when an opponent is playing D-React.
Especially IRL. On Talishar, it's kind of hard, but IRL, there's so many little tells that people give.
Yeah, and sometimes if you miss, it's just very punishing. I'll put it as 1 maybe because again, if you have 1, it makes the opponent afraid. Yeah, they're like, oh shit, I saw them pitch Emboldened. Do I put just D-React like a red unmovable in Arsenal? What if they blow me out? So
yep, exactly. Are you a fan of Goblet?
Oof.
Or is that for the first build that we talked about instead of this one?
I think that's more for the first build with natural Gogans. Yep.
All right, Iron Song Response Blue. I think this is kind of the perfect deck for it because oftentimes we want Valor plus a blue plus a 0 cost. So,
And
sometimes one is enough.
especially, yep, sometimes they perfect block and you go over by one and they have to think about if they want to waste their sync or fate for this. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so we're at 21 blues.
Mhm.
That's with the epots in the main board. So we could still add cards like Out for Blood, Shunt, Hold the Line, stuff like that.
See, I would probably add 3 blue shunts as sideboard.
Mhm. Okay. Okay,
I
so
think they're always nice to close out games
mhm.
and
And when we fat
with a
deck,
tunic.
having blues to bring in is definitely
Mhm.
helpful. Okay,
Yep.
so
And if you
I
get too high, we could always like move like one blue or something.
sure.
So
Okay, is there? So right now I have the epots in the main board. I actually don't think that's correct either.
mhm.
uh, so we'll move them to the sideboard. So is there any other blues that we want to include? Is there any
One blue,
generics that we're?
yeah, generic blues. How do you feel about our good old Heart of Findo?
Oh, oh man, that takes me back. So Heart of Fendel, man. I feel like the game doesn't go long enough for you to see it twice. You have to see it twice for it to be good, right?
Yeah. Only time you see it twice, at least twice and more, it would be against like assassins if you're fat
Yeah.
decking. Maybe Victor Guardians.
Mhm.
Um, maybe Mirror with Warriors. You might see it like
How
get 2 or
badly
3
do you
value.
get punished by not having a 12 block in your hand?
Yeah. Especially
That's a
now that
question.
I'm looking at it, we are running Pride as a no block right now.
Yeah.
We have 3 2 blocks. So it's not too bad. Our
Mhm.
density of 3 blocks is pretty good.
Yeah, we have
So
quite a high density. So heart could be a maybe.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. All right, and then is there any other? So I guess we need to talk about like the disruption and poppers. So generally, a Dom Blade focused deck that's running the Warriors Valor is just going to be running Nourishing, and but I think we probably need to put these in the sideboard.
I think so. Like
Yeah.
nourishing is great, but then again, I think in this current meta we still need some disruption
Hmm.
because without disruption, we're just going to lose to a lot of
Hmm.
decks.
Yeah. Okay, so I put the Nourishing into the deck. So I
Oh, you put nourishing in?
yeah, did you want to put that as a maybe or
Oh, I was gonna put nourishing as a maybe. Oh, did you put command and conquer or no?
Command and Conquer is in the inventory. That's
Oh,
in the
okay, I see.
sideboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right
We
now
could
this
put
is
nourishing as a
disrupt.
maybe because
Hmm.
we could talk about how many attack reaction disruption we want. Like, do we want anything other than
Yeah.
command and conquer?
Hmm.
Like weakest link.
Uh,
How do you feel about that?
so we don't have that. I feel like the cost curve is not going to quite work out. I feel like this deck is very all in on Dawnblade snowballing. Uh,
Okay, fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like right now this is in a pretty good spot. This might be in the sideboard. So is there any cards that you would not play in all matchups? Let's just put it that way.
Um,
The chorus, I guess, should
maybe
go to the sideboard.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you need more pumps or
And
against illusions, you'll bring it in. But other than
yeah.
that, maybe
Yep.
not.
Okay, so we got like 55 main board, which makes sideboarding kind of straightforward because you just add a couple cards. So we're at 76 at the moment.
Mhm.
Is there any other cards that you want to add? Or right now we're a little low on the blues, but we probably bring in some in all matchups.
Mhm. Yeah. Depending on the matchup, like you could bring the epots in or the shunts in or
So,
both.
uh, is this a card that you think is
Oh
relevant at
yeah,
the
how do we
moment?
forget? Yes, I think a hold the line at least one is
Mm-hmm.
good. One or
That's
and I
that.
forgot the other one.
That's that too.
Um,
Ripple
2.
away.
Yep. Yep.
Is, it,
Ripple Boy.
is that
Yep.
a card
I think
that
it's
you've
good.
been thinking about too? So
It's
that
good,
Ripple
but
away makes Codex Online, which makes me scared. Yeah.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. So that makes it kind of scary. But I
Mhm.
also liked. I mean, it's good against like Azealia when they like make their arrow super buff with all these on hit effects,
Mhm.
and you just deny their
Oh,
premeditates, ponders,
yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
so it could be good there, and it goes against KO if they're gonna like discard something. But I put that as maybe as a tech card.
Okay, so you were talking about Ripple Away as a maybe.
Yep.
Oops, sorry, wrong one.
Yep.
How about Snag?
Snag. I think I like Snag.
So we've said that our new matchup is hard, and this is
yeah.
like two of these makes that matchup much more palatable.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's add 2 of them.
I think definitely 1. 2 if we can.
Yep. I think we're actually okay. We're at 80, so
80.
this might be the play.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the deck's looking not too bad. So right now we have 21 blues, so that might be in the main board. So that might be too many. Because we're gonna bring in some of these. So we could trim a little bit. Which of these do you think is like the lowest priority?
I think maybe Precision Press we could remove one of.
Yep.
Others like maybe one Iron Song Response blue will be fine. Yeah. Or either remove one of that or one Overpower, I think. If you wanted to go lower. But I think that's good.
All right. Yeah, we're at 19, and in most matchups we'll bring in to at least 22 or 21. Yep. So
21 will be a pretty good number. You could
so
go up
do we want to have any sync belows in our deck? Because we have 2 slots.
Yeah,
that's a card we haven't really talked about, but yeah. And if there's any generic cards that you think might be good here,
sync is good. I forgot one card I really also like is Oasis, because that's the only way I beat a Kano if I
them. We forgot our Kano respect. Okay, so let's add these and figure out a way to include these. Okay, so I guess it should be 2 Oasis, probably not 3.
Depends. If you really expect Kano, then I think 3 it would be good, because it's always like good to go around dominates if you need to and such. But I think 2, maybe 2 for sure, and 1 as maybe.
Okay, sure.
You move 1 to maybe.
Yep. And then I added sync below somewhere. Where did I put? It's in the
main board down here. Yep.
Okay, so let's see. We have 55 main, but we're at 83 right now.
Okay, 83. It's got 3 cards.
Yeah. So okay, I'm wondering if we need like 3 of this.
Maybe we can go to 2 of Leave a Speed. I think I like commanding.
This is not a card you want to draw in multiples, right? Because if you draw them in multiples, it's expensive Sharpened Steel.
Yeah.
2 commanding performances at the same time is also. Well, there's a lot of cards if you draw them in multiples is bad, but this is like bad because it's defensively bad too. Like you draw 2, you draw like 4 Warriors Valors. It's like, okay, at least I could convert this into 3 block, and go from there. Okay, we're at 82.
Oof. Do you want to cut down to 2 yellow Valors, or do you still like the 3 yellow Valors?
So
how many Golgans are we at?
Yeah, that's the question. So we have 3. Do we count this? I guess we do, right? 3, 6, 7. I think it's pretty important to our game plan. Because we don't have I mean, it depends if you count the blues. If you count everything, then it's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We're not in the meta with Dromai, so it's like
yeah. With Leave a Speed, it will be a little bit more 20, like
22, and then we obviously have bolters. Stinging Steelblade sometimes is also going to be there. So
yeah. I guess
I feel like this is kind of the defining card of the deck, so I kind of want to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine with me.
Yep, 82 right now.
Let's see. So sideboard, what do we have?
I mean, do we need?
We could remove. Which one do you like more? 3 sinks or 3 blue shunts?
I think we could actually go 2-2-2 on our blues and just pick the 2 that are relevant in the matchup and go up to 21.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, and then we just
One
need one
more,
more
huh?
cut. Are you very attached to 220 blades? Because in the very old school style, they were just running one.
Hmm. No, I think we could go down to one. It just needs to protect that one till a
Yeah,
very late
we
game or when
have to
you need
pitch it.
it.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yes.
treat this like route. We try to put it back into our deck if we can.
That's our like game-winning card,
And
so
the
we
nice
need to
thing is
protect that
that
at all
whether
costs.
you have one, two, or three twinning blades, they have to assume you have three.
Exactly.
So
All right.
yeah. Okay, I guess we're at 80 now. So that's feels pretty smooth. Um yeah, I mean sideboarding this 53 cards, let's just do some really quick sideboarding, make sure that things make sense. Obviously,
Yeah.
Nixie and I are very experienced Dorinthea builders, so it should be roughly correct. But we need to make sure that things actually are correct. Against Zen, I presume you want to go second.
Yep.
For tempo. Yep. Okay. Okay. So against Zen, are you on Tunic or on Grains?
Grains for
Grains.
sure.
Yep. Okay. So we take those out and we run these. Okay. 53 here. And which 7 cards are you bringing to battle?
Definitely bringing in the pride.
For speed.
Yep, for speed. The thing is here, did you want to bring in the disruption on Command and Conquer, or no? Do you want to just go straight into like racing them?
I feel like Command and Conquer doesn't disrupt quite enough against
Fair
Zen.
enough.
Yeah, I here's the thing. I feel like none of the disruption options are that disrupting to them. Like censor, weakest link, Command and Conquer. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
Command and Conquer, if they still have their armor up, is just going to be 2 pieces of armor and a card.
Yep.
And
And then
you
they get
spent
2
2
cards.
cards to do that. And you
Yeah.
reset all your Dawnblade counters. So I feel like that might not even be the correct play there. I think we
Yeah.
just bring in the maybe. I know that we're not likely to get reprise, but I think this still makes a lot of like the God Hand is we get. So this is kind of like a high level strategic thing. It's like the best way to get Dawnblade counters is without resistance. Ideally, we just play Warrior's Valor and swing, and they just let it hit. That is the best way to
Mhm.
get counters, other than an undisputed Glistening Steelblade. Right? If we have to keep 5 cards and fight really hard for a Dawnblade counter, that's not actually what we want to do. We want to win the battle without fighting.
Mhm.
And this card kind of helps that because it's like, okay, I could keep this in Arsenal, and then I can block 2 cards, keep 2 cards, and then there's that. So I know that Zen is not likely to block, but I still think this is pretty important.
Yeah.
So we need 5 more cards. So is it going to be the Sink Belows and maybe some blues to bring us up to 21? Because we
Yeah, I
haven't
think you
added blue
definitely
yet.
want to bring 2. Only time you bring snag is if you know they're gonna play like Tiger Swipe to make it like a 2-hit instead of like a 4.
Yep.
But even then, it's so niche. Maybe like
Yeah.
Shunt might be good if they try to like it's
Yep.
very late game and they're like poking you with their staff.
Yeah, Shunt could possibly just steal a game as well. I
Yeah, so I
guess
think at
the
least
E
one
plot
of,
if you
but
go first and the Shunt if you go
Mhm.
second. So
I think that makes sense.
we'll
Yeah.
add the Shunt and we'll just write in the notes replace Shunt blue with plot going first. Okay. So we need 3 more cards. Is it just going to be the Sink Belows just for value? Or
I think so.
yeah.
It's either for me, I would bring Command and Conquer, but I could see the case for Sink Belows. Um,
I
yeah,
think the main thing is
some,
we don't have enough like unconditional go again. So
yeah.
I could see either way. I think the Sink Below might smooth out our hands a little bit. Like if we draw a
Okay.
bricky hand, I think this might save us. So
Yep.
okay, so this is I guess what we're gonna recommend. Okay, let's just work on a couple more. Let's say we're playing as new.
Yep.
You like going first or second?
Oof. This is
Not
one I'm
easy.
still trying to figure out which
This
one's
one's
better.
tough. This one's tough.
I think I like to go second,
Okay.
because they're not really defensive. And you don't really need to park a D react really early.
Mhm.
So you could like block up the first attack and then let them set up, and then you come in with like a 4-card hand to try to steal some tempo.
Mhm. Do you think Tunic or Grains is better?
Tunic here.
Tunic is better because we're going to
Well,
bring in the
actually,
shunts.
yes. How do you like to play? Because there's two schools of thought you could do against assassins. It's
Mhm.
either hopefully they don't disrupt you enough that you get your counters, and you just go to the race, and hopefully snag bails you out from like those big pumps.
Yep.
And since you're running two, that is possible. Or you play like the long control mid-rangey game, and eventually they don't have a D-Rex, and you're able to go over and start racking up counters.
Mhm. I that's a tough question. I think both of them have issues. That's the thing. I think it just straight up it's like an unfavorable matchup. There is a little bit of ambiguity though because they have to like guess maybe your decimator, maybe your hatchets. So
Yep.
maybe they don't bring in all their D reacts. So I lean slightly towards the first one, but ever so slightly.
I see.
Yeah. How about you?
Interesting. Okay. For me, against assassins, I always like to go full stack and just like go
Play
for
the
the
long
long
game.
game.
That's
Yeah.
one thing we actually didn't bring up yet is do we put a decimator great axe in our in our deck? Like there's
Oh,
no support for it at all.
exactly. I think this deck, as it's embodied right now,
Uh-huh.
can't fit a decimator. You'll need
Mhm.
stuff at least like E strikes and remembrance and sharpened
Fate for
steel to
scenes
really
and
make
yeah.
decimator. Yeah,
Okay.
just make
Okay, so
that work.
we'll
So
stick with Dorinthea as James White intended when he drew up the game. Okay,
yes.
so let's play for the longer game. I feel like there's more opportunities to make a play, I guess, in a longer game. So
Yep.
we'll run with Tunic like you suggested. Okay, so you recommend fat stacking against Assassin, and I
hmm
kind of that has been my mentality against Azuri and against Arachne in the past. Um, so are we just literally throwing the whole board in?
I think so. E-pots are still good because if they ever strip your hand, but you still have like 2-card hand with the E-pot, still could be
Mhm.
very good. I think shunt sinks and the D
Yeah.
reacts
All
and
right.
snags you want.
All
So
right. Well, we're going for it. We're presenting the whole deck. Okay. So
yes.
so by doing so, we are basically playing a slower style, and we're
Yes.
basically trying to hit second cycle, and then we know because new doesn't new does shuffle her deck, but once during the game
Mhm.
with Stir the
Yep.
Pot. So after they do that, you can keep track of their pitch and their D react count in graveyard. And then you can kind
Mhm.
of figure out when to make your play. And because you have
Yep.
73 cards, like modern new builds don't have that many attack reacts, right? So
Mhm.
having 2 Oasis, 3 Sink Below, 3 Shunt, that's 8. Hold the line 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I think having the snag and the shunt does actually make a pretty big difference for so now that you talked about this, I think I do agree going back to the fat stack style.
Yeah. Only thing
I
you have to be careful
yeah.
is they do have the ability to fatigue you with the Mask of Nightmares.
Yes.
So you can't go too slow and too light. You can't just be like just like block out and pass because then they'll
Yes.
just strip your hands.
Yeah.
But
You gotta take a stand eventually. Um
Mhm.
I think it comes down to, arsenaling the correct thing. So the
Mhm.
zero cost D react or sorry, zero cost attack reacts are very premium because then you can keep 3 cards, like a blue, a Warrior's Valor, and a good Arsenal card or another blue,
Mhm.
so that no matter what happens in terms of disruption, if you if you don't get disrupted, you get to keep 3 cards, you get an Arsenal. You get disrupted, you got 2 cards. Okay, at least you have a very functional turn with the 2 cards plus the attack react and Arsenal.
Yep.
So yeah, okay, so I think that's pretty good. And the nice thing about having those blues in the sideboard, guys, is that now our ratios, even though we fat deck, having 25 blues and 73 is still good.
Mhm.
So, okay.
One thing I'll say though, the people that are not used to fat decking, don't get too greedy early on with trying to get counters, even though you have like a really god hand, because you're eventually probably gonna lose it throughout the game. So try not to like sacrifice too much life
Yeah,
early. I think
I like
that's
that.
one mistake a lot of people do that in
Mhm.
the beginning.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about maybe two more. You said Aelia and Ko, so let's talk about Aelia, and we'll talk about Ko. So, are you a gambling man? Do you let them go first?
I think I am because I feel like if they don't knock and red and ledger me turn 0, I feel like my percentage of winning is much higher
Yep.
than me going first, and then they just block out with their whole hand for like 8 or 9, or I guess if they get lucky to 12, and then I just arsenal, and then they disrupt me.
Yep.
So
I completely agree. I have gotten burned very, very badly going second, but I think overall it is a higher EV play to go second.
Mhm.
Okay, so against them, are you running tunic shunts, or are you just relying on all the armor and making a pivot play?
So since I am going second in this current deck iteration, I am probably going to be very aggro and being a lean 60 with grains.
Okay, yep, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so we run like this, and we need to add 7 cards.
Mhm.
Which ones?
I think this will be very similar to Zen, but I think you definitely do. I think Command and Conquer is still very nice because it like stops all their tempo. If they ever disrupt you enough with your Red and Ledger, you have like no counters, then Command and Conquer is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And if they ever Codex you could just throw back CNCs
Yep.
and then disrupts their turn again.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I've gone back and
Uh,
forth on Command and Conquer against Aelia. I think right now it's okay because they're running a bit more pumps than they used to. So
so a lot of two
yeah.
blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though this is coming in for 5, sometimes you like completely mess up their hand. So
Yeah, they
okay.
like
Well,
they still need to block with 3
and
cards.
and
Yeah.
I think in this matchup, if you there there's less hands that are gonna like completely fall apart because you drew a Command and Conquer. You can always just throw this in Arsenal or bluff that this is an
Mhm.
attack react. Okay, so we need a couple more cards. We're at 56.
Yep. Um, so we need some blues here.
Yep.
Do you like epots to just be able to set up for bigger turns, or shunts for
I
like the?
I like both, to be honest, but I don't know if we can include this
Uh,
many. Um
we could add. We could always add like 2 and 1 of them, and also take out like emboldened blade because we know that they're not going to run D-Rex most likely.
yeah, you're right. Yep. Emboldened Blade. Yeah, we could just do that. Maybe it might be better just to run to the last card could just depend on first or second. I
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If
let's
you go
just
first, get the epot.
yeah,
If
we'll just
not, then shunt.
yeah. So if going first, add 1. Okay. Okay, and then we need 2 more cards. Is it just going to be the like sync blows just to possibly put this in Arsenal and mess them up? Because there's actually a decent chance they flip Dreadbore against us.
Mm.
Sometimes generally they're going to flip Death Dealer, but
Dealer.
there's a chance they flip Dreadbore. And then
Yeah,
this gets
for
kind of
sure.
awkward in hand. So
Yeah, I could see running, pride and responsibility aggro, or running
mhm.
2 sinks. I think it'll depend on how you feel this
I
opponent's going to be. Like you said, Dreadmore
yeah.
would like screw
Mhm.
you over.
Yeah, I feel like being a little bit more aggressive is going to be the play. Because if they don't disrupt us on a turn and we're aggressive, if they take a stand and like throw their hand down and we get over it, they just lose the game instantly.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit higher payoff for being aggressive. And if you don't get in Azalea's face, she's just going to send dominated arrows left and right. So you need to say, hey, there's consequences for not blocking me. So
Yep.
yeah, I like that. So I know this is kind of counterintuitive because the like the hatchet
defensive
the
sweep,
hatchet build will like stuff every defensive card in their deck. But yeah, I think I do agree with you on this 60 here. Okay. All right, let's add one more matchup and we'll kind of wrap things up. So KO, presume going second?
Yep.
Yep.
Going second.
Yep. So they've moved off of cast bones, so the threat of them starting the game with 6 damage is less. All right. I presume grains. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And we got to add a couple cards.
Yeah.
So
here I think definitely
probably these two.
Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Pride, especially in Brutes, because you could play around their flesh bag.
Yeah.
With it.
Yep. Yep.
You perfect block with it, and then once it's on stack to intimidate, you pitch to play Pride. So you deliberately underpitch initially when you attack, so you have no pitch floating, and then you play Pride to then put something out, and now you have a counter and you're going over.
Yep.
So
seems good.
I think it's great here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then let's see.
A couple more cards.
What do we add? Either we could add sinks to stop the pulpings, or we could just race sort of like with Zen. How do you feel?
I think it's pretty close. I think we can actually fit the sinks in there because we need 6 cards. So what's jumping out to me is response 3 sinks and add 2 blues.
Okay, yeah. I like that.
Okay. And against KO, probably leaning towards the shunt, unless we're going. This is one of those situations where I think it's like if you're going first or second, like
yeah. I think having one shunt is always nice, just always because if they're ever going to like claw you for the game, you could just like steal it with it.
Yep. So I think the exact same thing is replace one shunt with
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good actually. Okay. All right. So we have several of the matchups done. All right. Well, any final thoughts, final adjustments, anything like that?
No, I think this deck looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It's actually like not that different from like OG Dorinthea. Like that's what we kind of like base it off of, like trying to like force them to block, or if not, I get a lot of benefits and then get to hit harder. So I think this deck looks very nice.
Yep. Now this does at first glance look a little light on attack reactions, but like I said, you don't want to work too hard for your Dawnblade counters. If you could present a Warrior's Valor and swing, a lot of decks in this format do not want to block. So oftentimes you don't even need these attack reactions. Just the threat that they exist is enough.
Yeah. If you have just like something parked in Arsenal, they'll be like, oh, that could be a D-Rack, I could get blown out, so I'm just gonna block it all. Yeah. And you're like, that sounds great to me. I'll just save it for next turn.
Exactly. Yep. Also, Singing Steelblade is very good because, like, if you go Glistening Steelblade swing and you're relying on Singing Steelblade, they're like, armor. But if you play Warrior's Valor and swing, then it's like very few heroes can just throw 5 armor in front of this. Or if you back it up with like a Commanding Performance Lead for speed, 8 armor. So, okay, I think this looks pretty solid, and this is a pretty good deck. I guess we'll kind of, test it out and see. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of behind the scenes video for the TheCardGuyz A to Z series. All right, we'll see you guys later. Take care.
See ya.